Well, hello, and thanks for stopping by to discuss with me. This week we are reviewing Reflections of a Six-Time CMO, a conversation with Joe Tripodi, written by Daniel McGinn. A little back information. The article was published in the July-August 2017 Harvard Review and is formatted as a Q&A or question and answer. As the title of the article suggests, Joe Tripodi has held the Chief Marketing Officer position at numerous well-known companies to include MasterCard, Coca-Cola, and Subway, just to name a few. The responses given by Mr. Tripodi offer some great insight for those who may and may not be familiar with the role of a CMO. Some important takeaways from this article for high-level marketers are that the role of CMOs has shifted in many ways over time. And to be a successful CMO, you must possess certain qualities to withstand what can be a sometimes difficult or demanding position. More specifically, when you think of the role of a CMO, we typically think of the person who's in charge of advertising and communication. And this is true. But that's more or less what CMOs of the past focused on. Nowadays, CMOs have a higher degree of concern for brand and enterprise growth. This means there's more focus on consumers and on data. As many of us have learned over time, the world is becoming more and more technologically advanced, and this leads to a lot of changes for business. For CMO, this change means putting more time into understanding digital matters such as social media and e-commerce impacts on business. It also means focusing on analyzing data that may be relevant and useful to future business decisions. Um, CMOs now have a more integrated approach to tackling their responsibilities. They understand that they need to work with other chief officers in different parts of the business to understand the varying factors that impact growth. Tripodi suggests that CMOs are tasked with understanding R&D, innovation, pricing, packaging, the customer experience, and other growth levers. He offers some advice that I think some may find to be very helpful or useful in understanding the role of CMOs. I would say that his advice may be limited only because his advice is coming from his personal experience, but I do think it could still prove to be useful if you apply it to you or your position. Much of the advice that he gives, I feel, can be used in nearly any position. For example, he suggests that when entering into the field, you should gain as much experience as you can. And the experience should come from multiple different areas. Basically, meaning don't limit yourself to only marketing knowledge. Learn about things like social media and branding, IT, and sales. He also suggests gaining some experience abroad through traveling or studying in other areas of the globe. Do this in efforts to broaden your horizons. I think this is particularly useful in businesses that outsource or have consumers across the globe. Tripodi also recommends that the experience that you gain be from different industries. For example, myself, I have many years of production and manufacturing experience, most of which is in food processing. But the advice from Tripodi would suggest that I try out different industries, maybe get some experience in retail or restaurants. I strongly agree with his advice that those interested in the CMO role be able to balance those topics that are usually contradicting to each other. Some examples that you may be familiar with that were mentioned in the article are quality versus quantity, global versus local marketing. And my favorite, having a brand that is timeless but also relevant. Simply put, you must be up to a challenge as a CMO. As I said earlier, a lot of his advice can be used in any area, any industry. We should always strive to learn as much as we can and diversify ourselves. It makes us more knowledgeable, it gives us more tactic knowledge, and it makes us strong candidates. The most impactful recommendation given by Tripodi, in my opinion, is the need for CMOs to be a champion for growth. He shared throughout the article the importance of having vast knowledge, but he also shared the importance of being able to communicate that knowledge and share the importance of communicating the changes and needs to the company you work for. Simply put, you have to be sure that you and the company you are working for are on the same page. That the company you are working for will give you those tools that you need to be successful and to help the company be successful. I believe the best way to implement the recommendations by Tripodi is by having a good working relationship with the other chief officers and members of the organization who may have an impact on your success. Tripodi shared that his role is global and he spends time thinking about ways of expanding ideas, expanding business practices, and ways of expanding how we exchange information across borders. He emphasizes the use of digital interactions or social media to maintain and build consumer connections and keep track of stakeholders within and outside of the network. Finally, I strongly believe that Tripodi's experience has allowed him to share some great advice to our readers. But implementing his suggestions still requires that marketers hold themselves to a high ethical standard. Marketers should remember that even with the advances in technology and information, principles of ethics still apply. Everyone that we come into contact with, whether it be coworkers, partners, stakeholders, or consumers, should all be treated with respect and fairness. And your code of ethics at your particular business should still be followed even when being a champion for change. The changes that marketers are making are to be for the betterment of business, consumers, and the community. And this concludes my very first review for this course, and I look forward to discussing with you all this weekend. Until next time, this is Carissa Harrington.